Brought to you by DK Audio.
DK Audio presents The Anthropology Book, Big Ideas Simply Explained, by DK. Read by Simon Derwin. Introduction. Anthropology is the study of human life, from its earliest beginnings to the kaleidoscope of cultures around our contemporary world. It is holistic, exploring all aspects of what it means to be human over time and space. The field has come a long way from its early beginnings, when some anthropologists were associated with the growth of empires and colonialism, gathering data to aid their government's imperialist projects. At the same time, others used their skills to advance the causes or needs of the peoples they studied. Over the 20th century, and continuing today, anthropology has been in the vanguard of social justice, aiming to promote understanding between and about the peoples of the world. A social science. Anthropology is a comparative social science that seeks to learn about people in their own context. It requires researchers to consider what it is like to walk in another person's shoes, whether working with contemporary people or those who came before us. It is comparative in the sense that anthropologists will research, for example, why people in different areas of the world take different approaches or attitudes towards a social custom, such as marriage, childcare, or economic matters. Physical, social, and economic contexts influence relationships, transactions, and beliefs, and anthropologists bring these into their overall study. The comparative aspect of anthropology is not about judging which way is better, but rather how and why people take different pathways in creating their socio-cultural environments, habits, and belief systems. Impartial attitude. The relativist approach to cultures is one of the biggest ideas in anthropology. While tolerance presents our way as best, although others may exist, relativism sees varied ways of life and belief systems as different, but neither better nor worse than one another. All are deserving of respect and dignity, a fundamental of the value of diversity. However, anthropology is not entirely value-free. There are relatively few times and specific examples of when it is necessary to make a judgment. They are usually in times of great turmoil, when ordinary life has been upended, people are endangered, and destructive actions need to be addressed. For example, anthropologists would regard the actions of Nazi Germany as a crime against humanity. But here too, anthropologists turn to the comparative aspect of their studies to understand why and how what would be considered highly deviant behavior becomes normalized. Generally speaking, in everyday life around the world, there are quite different approaches to common human activities, and it is helpful to think about these as possible adaptations to different histories and varied physical environments. Alternative views. Ethnocentrism, where other cultures are judged using one's own native frame of reference, is the opposite to a relativist approach. In our early years, we learn to understand our world through the attitudes and actions of those around us. But this process is often much more varied than generalizations about cultural groups would have us believe. Just as our family's genetic makeup can produce quite different, although related members, our intellectual and spiritual approaches to life often develop quite differently to our parents and the other people around us, while maintaining strong connections and similarities. This means that cultures, and the individuals within them around the world, are constantly evolving, changing, and adapting. In anthropology, there are no societies that are more advanced or more civilized than others. There is no social hierarchy of societies. Instead, leading early anthropologists, such as Franz Boas, father of American anthropology, demonstrated that this was not a true description of cultures and cultural change. While anthropology uses comparison and context to situate its findings, it is not a judgmental comparison, but one that upends and destabilizes social hierarchies, turning the lens on ourselves as well as others. Racial issues. Anthropologists consider the concept of race as a social construct, not a biological fact. Race has no genetic basis. That is, no gene aligns a person with one race or another. Importantly, genetics and culture are not mapped onto each other. There is no evidence for genes predicting or being responsible for patterns in cultures. However, the popular categories of what is called race, usually based on interpretations of physical difference, have real-life consequences. It is crucial to recognize that racism is real, however artificial the construct. The words primitive and savage, used frequently in the early decades of anthropology, were, even then, questioned by many. At the time, primitive was believed to be descriptive of the simplicity of life, but here a common judgment on mental or social abilities. Boas fought against this racism, as did Bronislaw Malinowski, who wrote about the complexity and skills of the so-called simple life. Ethnography and ethnology. Ethnography combines an essential research method and a set of varied ways of writing about the culture of a people. Its most important method is participant observation. Typically, the ethnographer lives with the people in their environment, learns their language, takes part in daily life, and, where allowed, observes their interactions. Having obtained permission from the people, an ethnographer takes notes and makes recordings and videos of interviews, events, music, and other sounds around them. Often, especially in more recent years, an ethnographer will choose to focus on a particular aspect of the people's lives. This may be their religious belief systems, their foodways, their economic system, the music and sounds that are important to them, and many other possibilities. Ethnology is an umbrella term for comparative socio-cultural anthropology and its theories. Many European countries have institutes of ethnology or cultural anthropology. Often they have museums that feature their nation's earlier peasant societies and look at their own past. Ethnology and ethnography are usually combined by socio-cultural anthropologists. Fields of study. In many countries, the study of anthropology focuses on contemporary socio-cultural anthropology. This book takes a holistic approach, with the inclusion of biological, formerly known as physical, or evolutionary anthropology, archaeology, and linguistic anthropology. Together, these broad categories provide varied perspectives that help us to understand life on Earth over time and our place in the wider world. Cross-fertilization between these fields has enabled anthropology to make significant contributions to studies aimed at understanding concepts of race and racism. Research tools. Long-term participant observation fieldwork is usually supported by ethnographic methods, such as interviews, taking life histories, open-ended questionnaires, photography, and making recordings of people, events, and the environment. The study of material objects, old photographs, books, crafts important to the people, letters, and other objects from which the anthropologist can learn about the past and present can also add an extra dimension. Ethnographers also use kinship analysis and create kinship charts to try and understand relationships within groups. Many of these methods are shared across the various fields of anthropology, but may be used in different ways. Some were introduced or created during the very early stages of academic anthropology and developed over time. Each area of anthropology has a particular toolkit, but also borrows freely from other methods of learning. Each project starts with a literature review, deep research, local language learning where needed, and making contact with others studying the people or area. Branches of anthropology. Archaeology encompasses prehistory, but extends to the present.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?